Good evening, and welcome to the August 1st, 2022 work session for the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. Our board president, Commissioner Larry Holmes, is unable to attend tonight's meeting, so I will be presiding over tonight's work session. Mr. Berman, can you please take the roll?
Commissioner Gondik.
Present.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner Wexler.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here. Chief Viola, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll begin our meeting with a presentation from Mr. Scott Selkowitz, the chairperson of our Senior Citizens Advisory Board.
Senior Advisory Council doing the have three school programs. Starting with the Haverford Township.
Is that better? Okay. Once again, we had 3 submissions for the ARPA grants. The Haverford Township Evening School, Kelly Music, and also Surrey Services. The evening school program in their proposal indicated that they were not eligible for PPP loans. And as a result of the pandemic and the cancellation of many of their programs, obviously they took a financial hit. What they want to do, if awarded the $25,000, is to obviously publish brochures and reach out again to people to bring them back to programs, as well as utilizing the money to expand their afternoon offerings per request for many of the people who take classes, which involves a large segment of the senior population in the township. They did meet the eligibility requirements of taxes and so forth, and Amy was able, they had one, I think, application they had to complete. And they've done that, and they did address the basic tenets of the grant proposal. So it was unanimous that the Senior Advisory Council is recommending approval of their proposal and that the commissioners award $25,000 to the evening adult school. Kelly Music had similar issues during the pandemic where they had a reduction in funding sources and sponsors and donors, which impacted the programs and services and the events that they could offer. They're requesting to utilize the $25,000 not only to just get those programs back up and running and continue those programs, but a lot of their volunteers are seniors. So when they have programs and events to run, seniors have volunteer opportunities. Again, the council felt that they checked off the boxes. They were fine with their legal, tax, and financial information. And the council unanimously is recommending an award of $25,000 to Kelly Music. Full name is Kelly Music for Life, Inc. Surrey Services, on the other hand, presented a little bit more of a challenge for the council. We had a rather extensive discussion regarding Surrey. In their proposal, they indicated that their concept, their goal actually, is to combine their Broomall and Havertown locations into one site and to duplicate their Chester County operations in Delaware County. They did not specify in their proposal where they were going to locate. They didn't indicate that Haverford Township was preferential. They just continued to mention Delaware County. This was a concern, and I had reached out to Amy, and as professional courtesy, she got clarification from Surrey that they have, in fact, will be relocating in Broomall to a site, I believe, along the Parkway. So obviously that was a concern for the council, but we wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, and we took a look further at the numbers of all the people who comprise their census. Only 28% of their census are Haverford Township residents. So they're in Broomall, they're going to be in Broomall. It's 28% census right now. And basically we were looking to see how they were going to use the monies for re-engaging Haverford Township residents. Were they going to use the money for outreach? As a matter of fact, what were they going to use the monies for? Unfortunately, they never specifically indicated in the body of the proposal what they were going to use the monies for. So the Senior Advisory Council overwhelmingly rejected their proposal and recommend that the township do not award the $25,000 to Surrey during this submission, but they are certainly encouraged to reapply if there's another round. So it's a yes for Kelly, it's a yes for the Township Evening School, and unfortunately a rejection at this point for Surrey. Are there any questions? On behalf of the council, again, thank you for having me here tonight, and we appreciate your considerations of our recommendations. Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you so much. Hearing no other questions, move on. We'll be receiving our annual MS4 report from the Township Engineer, David Pannoni.
So as you mentioned, this is the annual MS4 report. Just to give you a little background and a little preamble, MS4 stands for Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. And in 2003, the requirements associated with this program, Haverford Township came under the state requirements to adhere to the MS4 program. Prior to that, the program existed, but a township the size of Haverford's, it was not applicable yet at that time. So since 2003, we've been monitoring, we've been adhering to the state's MS4 program. And just to remind everybody, what the MS4 program does in sort of a short definition of it is it's to monitor, measure, and reduce pollutants in the storm sewer system. Storm sewer systems are the pipes that ultimately go to creeks as opposed to the pipes that come out of your house and go to wastewater treatment facilities. The current permit, the year 5 permit, became effective on March 16th of 2018, and it will expire, their 5-year permit, it'll expire in March 15th of 2023. This current permit also requires that the township implement the PRP, the Pollution Reduction Plan, which requires a 10% reduction in sediment in the Darby and Cobbs Creek watersheds. It has to be done by April of 2024. It's very important because it is a unfunded mandate. It's work we have to do to eliminate pollutants, and we do have a deadline on it. We've worked with staff to identify what needs to be done. At this time, the plan is to do stream bank restoration work, which will give us a decent amount of credits on the pollution reduction. There are 2 projects that Township's doing now, some riparian work. One project Township's doing now, riparian buffer work, removing invasive species and planting native species along some stream banks. We're working with the staff to identify credits that can be taken for that and to see if there's any modest modifications to that work that can be done to increase the credits to be taken. Also, we're looking at taking an existing basin, we've worked with Dave on it, Raymond Drive, there's an existing stormwater basin down by the Little League field. We're looking to see about updating and modifying the basin and getting some pollution reduction credits for that work too. Typically, there's 6 minimum measures got to be met every year. Since we've been doing the work, we've always met them. They're everything from public outreach to construction site runoff control and post-construction runoff control. Coming up next month, the state this year required that we modify our stormwater management ordinance, prepared a model for the ordinance. We've worked on the model, we've updated the ordinance, presented it to staff in the township a couple weeks ago. We'll look to bring this to the board next month. And if everything is okay with it, look for the board to adopt it The changes are not, I'll be much more detailed on what the changes are, but they're not very structural. We have three big stormwater criteria when we do stormwater management, what we call rate control, volume control, and recharge requirements. And the first of the three, the model ordinance doesn't impact at all. The second two, really what it does, it gets a uniform way of calculating the requirements, tries to make it uniform across the state. 99%, if not 100% of the applications we see already adhere to those requirements. So it'll be more form over substance, but it's important. We want to stay in compliance with the requirements. We have various information on our township website for the residents to always look at about stormwater management. In this year, the last year of this current permit, we do have to monitor again all of our outfalls. We have 163 outfalls. We have them mapped. Monitoring means we inspect it. This is the third time we're doing them. And we inspect them. We note if they're dry. We note if there's anything coming out of them. And if there's something come out of them that is like malodorous or odd color, we test it. Typically, we don't have to test very much. But every once in a while, there'll be something we'll identify that we have to test. And the only other thing to add is we've been doing ongoing what are called Bmp inspections. When we have an applicant comes in and builds a stormwater management facility, something as basic as a on-site system for their property or something as sophisticated as Haverford Reserve, we, over a period of time, inspect them. This year, we've done about 20 so far, and we got about another 50 in the queue. We work with staff. Staff does the first outreach, and then we follow up with somebody that actually goes on the property and inspects. But so far, that's been working well. That's it for this year's report. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next on our agenda this evening is Commissioner Committee updates. Would any member of the board like to give an update from their respective committees? Okay, moving on. Police crime update. Next on the agenda, we invite our Police Chief, John Viola, to give his update. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. The Chief Report for July 2022, criminal arrest 23, and that is very high. Juvenile arrest 1, traffic citations 127, 11 non-traffics, 136 written warnings, 404 parking tickets. We had 2 aggravated assaults, one at 250 Westchester Pike, which is Cole's. Cole's employee attempted to stop a shoplifter and was struck by the defendant's vehicle while fleeing the scene. An arrest warrant has been issued for robbery and aggravated assault. 116 West Township line of the Giant. Police responded to the location for a subject with a gun. Police arrested a male after he was seen licking his fingers and touching customers and threatened an employee while seen in the possession of a handgun. He was waving it in front of the store by the main entrance and wouldn't let anybody in. He had thrown the gun down when police arrived. This male was wanted for a mental health evaluation out of Upper Darby. He was taken to the hospital and then charged with related offenses. At a burglary at Haverford High School, 2 youths got in through the construction site, did some graffiti on the wall. Security shows 2 males about 18 years of age are responsible for the crimes. The investigation is ongoing, and I think they've been identified. Unit block of East Eagle Road, Barada Restaurant. Victim states that someone had entered the restaurant, stole money from the safe for approximately $1,000, cut the wiring to the alarm security system, and emptied 3 chemical fire extinguishers throughout the restaurants. They closed the restaurant on Sunday, July 3rd. When they arrived the following morning at 11:30, found no damage. They believe this is done by a former employee. Investigation is still going on. 2700 block of Sunnybrook. Now, there's a couple of these, Winfield Drive, and I believe there's another one, 2400 block of Winfield Drive, that are all related. Between Upper Darby and as far as Norristown, there's been a group that's riding the rails on the SEPTA line, getting off at stops and trying to break into houses. So Radnor's had a number of them, we've had a number, Upper Darby's had some, and it goes right up the line. So 2700 block of Sunnybrook, and this was on 7/22 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Police responded for a report of a burglary in progress. Delcom report stated that the caller saw a tall, thin-built black male wearing camo pants and a gray hooded sweatshirt in her residence. On arrival, the actor had fled. Nothing appeared missing for the property. Investigation is ongoing. 2400 block of Winfield Drive on 7/28 at 7 o'clock in the morning. Actor entered the residence through the unlocked door during the overnight hours and stole a purse in the living room. $500 was taken. And then the other one on Winfield Drive, this was on 7/28 at 4 a.m. A resident observed a male on her Ring doorbell camera after waking for the day and called police. The resident had a camera which had a video of a light-skinned male wearing a light-colored jacket, dark pants, and black ski-type mask. Suspect was observed trying the front door of the residence. He did not get in. Same suspect, the burglar of the neighbor's residence. So we feel they're all connected, and this is an ongoing investigation with multiple police departments involved. On 7/12, 1000 block of Ulster Road, police responded after a neighbor observed suspicious juveniles near her home. On arrival, no juveniles were located. A group of teens friendly with the homeowners entered the residence knowing they were away. Victim declined to prosecute. Parents were notified and advised of the incident. 1000 block of East Manoa Road residents, owner advised on 7/25 that she discovered a screen to her attached rear porch had been cut and the furniture to be moved. We feel that's also connected to the other ones, which is close to the P&W line. Motor vehicle theft, 300 block of Cathmere. A 2017 Caddy was parked out front. That was stolen. Vehicle was unlocked, keys in the cup holder. Vehicle was recovered in Philadelphia. 2 juveniles were arrested for the crime. 2400 block of Howell, same thing. The vehicle was recovered in Philadelphia. Another two juveniles were charged and arrested with the crime. Thefts from autos. 400 block of Olympic Avenue. PA license plate. It may have fallen off. It may not have been stolen, but we take the report of those. 1300 block of Westchester Pike, the Manoa Shopping Center. Victim was working the shopping center. Catalytic converter was removed from the car. Another one, 100 block of West Eagle, catalytic converter. Dayton Road on 7/14, the victim reports that a navy blue backpack was taken from her locked vehicle. Handicap placard was taken on the West Benedict. That may have been lost. Haverford Reserve, we have 2 from Haverford Reserve of windows broken again, and that's starting up. Credit cards were taken. The other vehicle, a Kate Spade purse was taken. And then Uniblock of Yale Road, Cathmere and Kenmore for vehicles entered with nothing taken. And then finally, K-9 usage. Haverford High School, 200 Mill Road for the burglary. They conducted a search of the high school, no negative results. 351 Exeter Road, investigate premises. Police K-9 bar did check the property after a storm that was found unlocked negative. Lower Merion police requested K-9 assistance at the Sunoco A+ 330 East Lancaster Avenue after a robbery had just occurred at gunpoint. A track was attempted but unsuccessful. Usually this time of the year things calm down, but we have a bit of a crime wave going on here with different things going on. So detectives are working diligently to clear up the burglaries and some of the other things. So on another note, tomorrow night, National Night Out, we have at the Lowe's lot, we have giveaways, we have police presence with all our toys out there that kids can climb in and out of. We have food. A lot of vendors will be there, a lot of good time. I think we have the helicopter from Philly coming again. Fire departments will also be there. So we encourage everybody to come down, bring your families down and have a good time.
Chief, any postal thefts?
Yes, I was about to ask
Believe it
you.
or not, there's nothing on here this time.
Good.
But I was about to ask you, because I've heard stories about mail being delivered to homes and it's been opened up. So I don't know if that's...
I don't have reports on this one. I'm
Okay.
not saying we didn't have any, but as of this day for the last month, we didn't have any.
Oh,
So.
okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I keep asking this. We have cars broken into at the Crack continually. We got the ARPA money for security at the township. Can we get a proposal out to camera this thing? I mean, I know it's not you, it's probably more of a township issue, but we've talked about this for about even before Mr. Berman came.
Yeah, Dave and I have spoken
Yeah.
about this
I mean,
quite a
I
few
think-
times. Dave, you want to comment?
Yeah.
We have been looking at that with our IT department, and there are some real logistical issues about getting the appropriate cabling and wiring over to that area for the cameras. And we have looked at the possibility of being able to view that area from the upper lot, and it's not been successful.
The technology's changed. There's so many various cameras that work on Wi-Fi now that we could do that. You put a directional antenna on the main building, and the cameras just flow back into there. You don't need the wire. They can run on Wi-Fi. They're high quality. So I think we need to look at that and get.
There are a number of challenges, but I'll be glad to speak with you about that and figure out a way forward.
Well, one of the main things I'll say it again, that especially at the Crack, when those incidents happen up there, people are usually in the dog park or taking a walk in the trail, and they leave their personal belongings visible in the car. So when these thieves are walking around, they're just looking in the cars that they see something. Is when they break in. If they don't see anything, they don't break in. So, if anybody's walking, using the facilities up there, enjoying themselves, and they want to leave their personal belongings, put them in the trunk where they can't be seen. Because it's an open invitation. It's sad, the world we live in, but where we are, so. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Moving ahead for next week. Next week, the board will consider a motion to authorize the township solicitor, Mr. John Walco, to execute one tax assessment appeal stipulation that resolves an outstanding appeal. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, moving forward. Next week, we'll also be adopting the 2023 budget schedule. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding that? Very good. Next week, we will also approve awards for the senior grants initiatives as described previously by Mr. Selkowitz. Are there any additional comments or questions from the board?
I did have a question. He mentioned a second round. Amy, have we considered a second round for the seniors? Was that originally in the plans? I know with the business grants, we sort of planned multiple rounds, but.
We did allocate up to awarding 10 of these $25,000 grants, so there is money there if the board would approve another round. That round could be expanded to include, it could be expanded to whatever the will of the board is, but there is funding there that we had earmarked for senior initiatives.
Kevin, we just discussed that at the senior meeting as well, that, we could
Yeah,
come up with a proposal for another round,
Right. I mean, he was talking about Surrey maybe filing a new application with more information. I just wanted to make sure we actually then gave Surrey that opportunity to do it. So, all right, thanks. If, depending on how we vote next week.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. Next week, we will consider Ordinance Number P12, 2022. This is the second reading of this ordinance to approve special purpose parking. Questions were addressed last month, but are there any new questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, we'll move on.
Can I,
Please.
we got an email today that there was another special purpose parking that'll be a first reading that's going to be added to the agenda next week at 101 Campbell. So if anybody has an issue with that, it's same or similar motion, just at 101 Campbell.
Thank you. You beat me to the punch. I had that at the end of my agenda.
Sorry.
But very good. Any questions or comments about that first reading of 101
Apologies.
Campbell Avenue? Very good. Moving on, we'll also entertain a first reading of Ordinance Number P13, 2022. This is a deed of dedication on Harvard Road. Mr. Berman, can you offer any further explanation for this?
Yes, the Harvard Road extension goes down by the Pensy Trail, and there is a cul-de-sac with maybe 7 homes in there. The township needs to, the Board of Commissioners, in order for us to accept dedication of that roadway and the public improvements, including the lighting and sewers, the Board of Commissioners would need to adopt an ordinance. And so that's what this is going to do.
I just wanted to clarify, and the township did the work.
If you'll, I don't know if you recall or if we discussed it, the developer at the time.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes, as Commissioner Quinn said, yes, the township did the work with the money that the developer had left in escrow. It was financial security that was placed for that very purpose. And so the township completed the project The legal fees, the engineering fees, the inspection fees, and all of the work were, the money was sufficient to cover all of that.
Okay, so there's no cost to the township.
There was no added cost to the taxpayers, that's
And is
correct.
there any repercussions for the developer? If the developer was to come back and to want to develop something,
I'd defer to Solicitor Walco on that question.
There's not a legal procedure in place for that, but certainly we'd make sure that they have plenty of financial security in place for the next time, and I'm sure that the staff would be extra cautious for any permits or any approvals that they provide.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, moving on. Next week, we'll also be considering resolution number 2273, 2022. This is a highway occupancy permit to close down state roads for Haverford Township Day, which is on Saturday, October 1st. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Thank you. Next week, we'll also be considering resolution number 2274, 2022. This is for the approval of the 2022-23 CDBG Action Plan, which outlines the township's use of available CDBG funds, community development block grant funds. The township expects to receive $797,030 in HUD allocations. Mr. Berman, can you please offer additional details about the action plan?
Yes, there are a number of projects that were identified in the action plan. The vast majority of it goes to our home renovation, home improvement program that helps folks who need it to complete the work at their properties. There's also some work for historic resources, including work at the Grange. We had previously, over the years, done work at some of the other historic properties, but in this case, there's going to be some work at the Grange estate, including a retaining wall and some other projects there. Those are the major projects that were included. We had some park and rec projects in there, I believe. Amy, was there anything else that I'm missing?
I'm not sure. I know you mentioned historical properties in general, a roof replacement at Normandy House. That was one of them as well. I'm sorry, HVAC replacement at Normandy House. Some curb cuts for handicap accessibility. But most of the majority of the funds, as Mr. Berman said, go to low mod housing rehabilitation to get their properties up to safety standards.
Is the Manoa Road accessibility?
Yes, they
Oh,
are
that's
on there. Yes.
curb cuts. Is that curb cuts or is that?
No, that is a separate line item, Manoa Road crossing accessibility improvements. We have 160,000.
And where on
allocated.
Manoa Road is that?
I don't have the
That's
drawings, but Dave might.
Alston. That was a problem that had been identified quite some time ago, and it's a crossing, I believe, at Alston that gets you down to Chatham Elementary.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Berman. Next week, we're also considering the approval of the township's participation in the fall 2022 Coast Guard's Energy Procurement Program for 2 years, as recommended by the township staff. The board received a memo in our packet with further explanation, but are there any questions or comments from the board tonight?
Just a question. So CoStars will make a recommendation to us on, is that how the?
No, CoStars will bid out the product that we ask them to bid out.
Okay.
So they will bid out the renewable product that we're asking for. We cannot get nuclear, as I explained, through CoStars. We could only continue that through Constellation, but the price for nuclear and the price for renewable was not very different. So we think this is the best approach.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on. We'll also be considering next week for approval several contract awards. First, we'll consider the 2022-23 SALT contract. This is a joint venture with other municipalities. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. We will also consider a 2022-23 solar SALT contract. Are there any questions or comments related to that?
That's for the brine that we put on the roadways before storms.
Thank you. We'll also be considering a contract for leaf removal. We're awarding this potentially to American Biosoils and Compost at a rate of $26.50 per ton. Are there any questions or comments related to that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually do have a question about the leaf pickup, not so much about the awarding of the contract, but about the dates that the leaf pickups occur. Is that something that's part of the contract, or is that something set by the township? How is that arrived at?
The dates are established by Public Works. Every year, we use the same equipment to collect the leaves that we ultimately use for winter weather maintenance, like for plowing and spreading of salt. And so we attempt to start earlier, and in some cases too early, so that we can be done in time for the winter season. Sometimes we get an early snowfall and it throws our leaf collection schedule out of whack, but that's why we do what we do.
Okay. And has the 2022 schedule already been put out, or?
I have not seen the 2022 schedule yet.
Thank you.
Regarding leaf removal, I know this contract is just for the entity that will eventually take the piles of leaves that we bring to the yard. But last year, we had difficulty securing some of the temporary workers that assist with leaf pickup. Do we have any anticipation of that being a problem again? Is there anything we can do to correct that? Because I know we closed the recycling center for a couple months because of that, right?
Yes, we did close the recycling center at Hilltop during leaf season last year. I would anticipate probably doing the same thing again. We have just enough people on staff, and we also use the company that helps us with our electronics recycling, PAR Recycling, and they provide labor for us that assists with the leaf collection. It's all hands on deck for the leaf collection, and therefore, other duties kind of find themselves set back.
I'm nominating Kevin for leaf collection. I don't know about you guys.
What?
I'm nominating you for leaf collection.
Yeah. So is that?
Direct all the calls to you for that.
That's fine. I'm good with those calls. So is there a workaround now to in sort of anticipation for that? I guess I'm just concerned as, we're facing similar regionally and nationally in terms of labor and being able to pay people sort of a wage that they would accept.
Yeah, I mean,
should we be anticipating that now so that we don't have significant problems in terms of shortages?
You're right on.
Okay.
Your point is well taken.
All right.
Anybody else? All right, very good. We'll be considering an award next week for the purchase of Paddock Farms playground equipment to Recreation Resource USA in the amount of $23,053. Are there any questions or comments related to that? I just want to personally say I'm pretty excited about it, so thank you. All right, moving on. We'll also be considering a contract award for a fire and EMS study to be administered by the Center for Public Safety Management, LLC. Any questions or comments related to that? Very good. Finally, we'll be considering a contract award to Trazer, LLC for a new assessment management software and associated training. Mr. Berman, can you please offer some additional information about this contract?
Yes. So all municipalities typically use a permitting and a property management system for tracking and issuing building and zoning permits and other types of permits. We also use the system for property maintenance inspections and tracking all of our work in those areas. The system that we have has been it was purchased several years ago, and it was the company that we purchased it from sold it to a company that is much further away and difficult to track down, difficult to work with, difficult to get improvements, and difficult to get customized reports. We've been looking for a new system for quite some time. We've located this system that's called Tracer that a number of larger municipalities use in this region. it is a state-of-the-art program, and it includes all of the functionality that we need and then some. And I think the one that's going to be most beneficial and most recognized and appreciated by our residents is going to be a system where a resident can use either a handheld device or their computer to take a picture and send in a complaint to the township, and then it will then, I won't call it a complaint, a concern to the township, and it will be distributed via email to the appropriate party at the township who would take care of it. So if it were a park program, it would be GIS-based. If you're at Paddock Farms Park, for example, or Paddock Park, you take your picture of the slide that you don't like or that's broken, and you send it over, and it gets sent over to Brian in Park and Rec, and it'll be repaired and addressed, and you can track that as a resident through the app. So we're very excited about that aspect of the system, but we're also excited to be looking at a new computerized permit and property management system.
Does this replace Munilogic in total?
This would replace Munilogic in total
For the entire township
for
operation?
the entire township operation.
Any other questions or comments?
Is the licensing per year similar or more expensive, less expensive?
It's a little bit more expensive. The startup fee, I believe, is $25,000 roughly, and that would be due at the beginning of next year. We'll start our implementation as soon as the board says it's okay to do so, but the money won't be due until next year, and therefore we can budget appropriately for it. And this system has a monthly fee, and I believe it's $1,800 a month. $1,600 a month, thank you. And so that would be significantly more than Munilogic, but also a significantly better system that will have many benefits to our residents, and plus we can pay for it with our permitting system, our permitting fees.
This is a cloud-based system, not.
This is cloud-based,
So
that
we
is
lose
correct.
the maintenance on the servers and upkeep of the servers for that stuff? Okay.
Yes,
Good. All right.
thank you.
Anybody else?
What's the turnaround time for assuming we go with it, what's the turnaround time for implementing it?
I would expect it to be up and running by the first quarter of next year.
Sorry, taking notes. That's great. I just personally want to applaud the township and our township manager for pursuing this. I have worked with systems similar to this in Pittsburgh and with the state, and have found it to be increase efficiency and also increase just the level of transparency and communication between the government and the constituents. So I think it's fantastic, and I'm excited to see it come to fruition. So thank you. Moving, the last item that is not on the agenda, but I would like to be added to Monday's agenda, is a motion to authorize our township manager to work with the Environmental Advisory Committee to submit a USDA composting grant that, if approved, requires a matching grant of up to $25,000, which represents approximately $25,000 of the grant awarded. I have mentioned this to others, but if approved, this grant will allow the township to perform a study to consider the feasibility of the township offering composting services for residents. It also provides incentives for households to utilize local third-party composting service providers. It will allow us to continue to provide composting opportunities at our township events, such as Haverford Township Day. It will potentially add a new composting service at the township building, continue subsidies for backyard composting bins, and create a new pumpkin composting event. Are there any questions or comments related to that new agenda item?
The 25,000. Right.
Correct. So the award would potentially be approximately $160,000. 25% roundabout represents that $25,000.
I'm sorry, the grant's for $160,000, and we're responsible for 25%, so wouldn't that be $40,000?
Forgive me, I'm not looking at the numbers right now. I can tell you that it's up to $25,000.
Okay, so 25 is the
Is
correct.
the correct number.
Regardless of what the other number is, 25 is
Correct.
what
Correct.
they're looking for from us.
Well, and if I'm correct, it also represents some volunteer hours in there too, so that gets looped into it. Ultimately, I do think there's an opportunity actually for some savings here for the township. Not only do I think that we potentially would have had a study for feasibility at some point related to providing composting services, but for example, if we do this pumpkin composting event, it could take that waste out of our trash fees that we already have and potentially save us some real money.
Would the survey itself, or what they're trying to get the grant for to conduct the survey, among the other things about, obviously promoting these activities, would the potential economic savings component of it be something that would be part of the end result, the end report?
Yes, so I think it will really be diving into that kind of feasibility, but also potential savings and crunching the numbers a little more.
Will we get details on this during the week?
Yes, happy to get more information to you. This is kind of a last minute thing that was presented to us. Any other questions or comments? None. We've exhausted tonight's agenda. If there's no further questions or comments, we're adjourned. Thank you.